everybody. Welcome to 30 and 30 Live Arts Retrospective. And tonight we are talking about season 2013 to 2014. My name is Linda Zuby and I'm on staff here at Live Arts. And our guest tonight is Grady Smith. He'll be joining us shortly. And just in case you're not sure where I am in the scene shop in honor of Grady and the Scenic Guild. Got my shirt on. Very good. All right. And just before we join Grady, let's give a shout out to our community partner tonight. It's the Spice Diva. Online ordering available, and they'll get your favorite spices out to you ASAP. Thank you, Spice Diva. All righty. So now, without further ado, live from Portland, Oregon, Grady Smith. There he is.
Hey there.
Live long and prosper, Grady Smith. Oh yeah, that's right. Let's dance with our hands. Very nice.
That was a little Rob Petrus joint there for a moment.
Hi, Rob, if you're out there watching. So I'm so glad that you decided to do this because we haven't seen you in a long time because you've been a big guy out in Oregon.
Yeah, thanks so much for asking me, and thank you.
I know, I emailed you special. Anyway, why don't we start with your live arts history, like when you got started, how you came in through the door. You were our TD for a while, but you had other stuff going on before that.
Yeah, let's see. I'd been doing theater since high school, and art and sculpture and dance and stuff. And let's see. I, through Rob Petrus and the Richmond Ground Zero folks, they had a overlap with the Charlottesville Zen Monkeys, and through that participated with Live Arts. I'm trying to remember the first thing I did at Live Arts. I know I did lights, like assistant. I basically came in to execute what Rob Petrus and John Gibson came up with for Floyd Collins. And
oh, that's right. Yeah, back in the old in 609. Yeah.
Yeah. So did that, and whatever was first, that or the Ix Building Gala. I did that.
The huge, ginormous, incredibly dirty.
Yes.
Ix warehouse when it was
pigeon
empty.
poop in every lung. And yeah, I remember we could get electrocuted by touching the standpipe. That happened a couple times, and never figured out why. And and I went to Edinburgh a number of times, and was, I think, yeah, and did stuff. And I also had a gallery performance space in Richmond called Orange Door, and I would borrow stuff from Live Arts for that. And then eventually we discussed, and I became TD after applying.
I know, we
moved to Charlottesville, and the rest was history.
Well, and I know last week we saw pictures of you in Rope, Ground Zero dance doodah, you and Rob, and you had two women who alternated in the other part, but
I think Jacqueline was an understudy, but Pam England was in all three of the performances.
Oh, okay.
And Pam was the originator of me, Rob, and it was a solo first with Rob Petrus, Rope, and then he recruited me and Pam when he turned it into a trio.
Yeah, wasn't there like kind of like a preview when he was developing it up in rehearsal A? Didn't we do something with Rope up in rehearsal A?
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
anyway.
I seem to remember for a while there we were touring it, and I was, we were always figuring out ways of doing rigging in non-rigging
spaces. Yeah. That's always fun.
Which served me really well later when working for Live Arts.
That's right. So, well, you were a TD, but you did some wonderful design work. We're going to see one of them tonight. But last week we talked about the Dazzle, which was one of your scenic designs, which was
I
was
love
one of
the
my
Dazzle.
faves.
And I was lucky to work with John Gibson on that. And that kind of felt like my first really successful design there. I had done All My Sons and Caucasian Chalk Circle. I thought All My Sons was nice, but I felt bad. I felt like I fell a little short for Bill Ruff. I think it was a very serviceable set, but I don't know. With the Dazzle, I figured something out. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, you totally figured it out. It was awesome. So anyway, so we jump into our slideshow.
Excellent.
Yeah. So first up in the 2013-2014 season. Up here is a comment. There it comes. Oh, look, it's Grady.
Oh, that's what I looked like back then. All healthy and non-gray.
Oh, look at my gray hair. Don't even get me started. Okay, the motherfucker with the hat. This is a wonderful show up in the Founders.
That was gorgeous.
Talk about great graffiti, great cast.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's Trina and there's Ike. This is a PR photo.
Wonderful.
We also had John Cobb and Javier and Barbara Roberts in this cast. It was wonderful. Directed by Natalie Dieter. There's the Fab set.
Oh, Natalie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the bed thing and everything. It was another example of a very clever, elegant upstage Founders.
Yeah, didn't this like Murphy bed?
Yeah,
go right up in the wall, and the couch was on the back side or something. It was really, really well done.
Yeah, no,
Very
it was
cool.
It was super thoughtful. Yeah.
And this is like the third play we did by this playwright. So must like Stephen.
Yeah, Jesus Help the A Train and
Our Lady of 121st Street. Yeah. All right, here was our classic Christmas show this year, and it split the holiday. You see, it started in December and ended in January, directed by Betsy Tucker. We had a mix of community people and a few UVA people.
Seems to be the winning combination for musicals.
Oh, Bill Gray over there on the far left.
Oh,
Paula Stewart.
God, Bill Gray. Nice costume. Who did costumes for that one?
Who did costumes for this one? I'm trying to remember. Here, I'll look it up. I've got the programming right here because I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, they were really nicely done. Costumes. Oh, Trisha Emmett did costumes. Oh, there's Jen Lawless, the lovely Jen Lawless.
No wonder they look so good.
Yeah.
Love that floor. That is slick.
That's a great floor. I think I helped paint some of those boards, if I remember correctly. Getting There to Baby. All right, this is back up in the Founders, directed by Bill Ruff, and this is a we have youth and adults in this production.
A Will Slusher set.
And a Will Slusher set.
Will did some of my very favorite sets, particularly in the upstage.
Yeah, he's very, very creative.
Yeah, he did the Giver and Adding Machine up there, and just the painterliness of this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if he recruited or did it himself, but
he does a lot of it himself.
At
night.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's the hard part about painting.
You have to wait till after rehearsal.
Yeah, and you have to have your drying time, and then you got to seal it all in. But look at that paint job up there.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Also, too, this is one of our mentor apprentice shows where we have high schoolers shadowing some of the design folks so they can start learning more about things that they're interested in the theater.
That was always great. That was really wonderful.
Ooh, great gardens. It's our big March musical down in the Gibson, directed by Bree Luck. Oh, you notice there's a Carol Patterson snuggled in there with Bree and the cast crew photo.
Yay!
Yay! We have very young Katie Wall and Iris Suzanne in this.
I see Heather Hutton.
Yeah.
Just
Miller.
Heather Hutton is just profile. It's just going to be tech heavy because I do. Just a phenomenally talented lighting designer.
Oh, she's great. She's been our 24/7 lighting designer for almost all of them.
Yeah.
First ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. And then Chris Patrick in here. And also I have a little story that Bree shared with me about this Grey Gardens. And she says, a snowstorm hit the week before tech. So I spent 3 nights sleeping in rehearsal B and hot glued cat food tins to panels on the wall. At one point, I was so exhausted that I hot glued my hair along with the cans. Suffice to say, this resulted in a haircut for opening night. That's our Bree.
Any surprise on this face? Of course she did.
She did. I hot glued all my fingers. So, Language Archive, directed by Fran Smith. Yay! I was in this.
Franny, yes, you were.
You and Howard Pape designed the set. There we all are.
The late, great, amazing Howard Pape.
That
clock. That clock was all him.
It was amazing. It's a great set, kind of like folded in and out of itself.
Yeah, yeah. Good paint job there. It was definitely very well. I think we have some production slides coming up.
Yeah, we'll see those later so we can really truly appreciate. Oh, there's me and Kate.
Peppercorn. God, he did a great job.
You did a great job with that. I remember, I'm going to make fun of Fran here. I think I told you this the other day. I was on stage with Katie. I was the Esperanto instructor. And yes, it's a real language. And I had to learn it via YouTube. But anyway, she kept saying, you're in a straight line. You're in a straight line. And being the smart ass that I am, I kind of looked at her and I looked at me and Kate and I went, Fran, there's only 2 of us on stage. We will always be in a straight line.
Yep.
Especially up there. Oh, that's a good
2
picture.
points make a line.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really showed the influence of Louise Nevelson in our thinking there. But anyway.
But we'll see some more pictures of that set later because it was a really cool set. So our last big show of the season was the Master and Margarita, developed by Peter DiMartino and Julie Hamburg for a couple months going into it. And then I know the ensemble did a lot of work, and look at the size of this cast and crew. It's amazing.
Great googly moogly.
Great googly moogly. It's a lot of people. There were 4, and look, Carol Patterson over there. Carol, oh my gosh, always helping out. There were 4 costumers on this show.
Oh my God. Well, you can imagine.
Yeah, just to get all the, and look at Daryl in drag. How cute is that?
Is that drag for him, or is it just, he's just so pretty? It's hard to say.
It's drag. So, and I asked one of the costumers for a little story, and this is what Amy Goffman, one of the costumers, had to say. Trisha Emlet and Keisha Jarrett and Karen, what was the other person? I'm so sorry. Karen Booth. Anyway, here's what she said. I remember Master and Margarita. I love the period and thinking in terms of Russia. The biggest challenge was the ball, where a few actors had to do costume changes to parade across the stage as murderers from various eras. The costumes were fun, but the changes were not. There was some delightful cross-dressing. Thank you, Daryl. And it was a play of contrast between repressive society and total mystical chaos and anarchy. And these are some of the press photos, which are awesome.
Those are great.
Master
that was a
and
good
Margarita.
looking show. That was a really good looking show. That was one of the ones where I was definitely wish that I'd been able to have a little piece of that.
A little piece of that.
It was great to just watch though.
It was great to just watch. And you'll notice that there's no summer show because this is the summer we shut down to do the whole lobby front of house renovation, which now stands. I was the office babysitter for this summer, and there were no camps and no plays because it was totally ripped up and getting refigged and reconfigured, and there you go. So that was our season.
Remember Howard running around there like the gentleman who put up the the pecan wood panels. It's
Yeah,
weird
yeah,
what
yeah. I
sticks
forget
it out
his
of your
name, but
memory.
yeah.
Yeah. And now you're the ghost. Now you're the ghost in the machine during this
I
phase
am
as well.
me and Daryl.
Aw.
I'm ghosting on the fourth floor, and Daryl's ghosting down in his box office.
As long as you
So
stay away from each other,
we do our best.
lovingly.
That's right. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about designing, and in this case, for the language archive, you and Howard co-designed, and you
Yeah.
had a very visually oriented director.
Yep.
And how does that work? How do you jump in? Because that's moving part, three good hard working moving parts there, the three of you and Howard and Fran.
Yeah, yeah. And just to make things more complicated, in the middle of the design process, me and my wife went to India for a month
That's
to
right.
do some do-goodery at a visual clinic. Let's see. So the upstage is tiny, and I'm just gonna flip back and forth between upstage and founders. Just
That's okay. I do the same thing.
that's how I do. Well, like you said, it's you know, when you're saying, Fran was saying, you're both in a straight line, it's kind of funny because as much as anything, it's almost like being an audience member up there is almost being like somebody watching a playground brawl. You know, everything just kind of comes in together, and you know, everybody has their own little perspective.
You're right there. You're right there.
You're just right there. And like Language Archive had, you know, a bunch of these very place specific scenes. There's the train station and everything it is a metaphor, and there's the bakery and what that is for the archivist's wife, whose name I forget.
Yeah.
And there's
The hospital.
Yeah, and there's the archive itself.
The archive
and
itself.
all that good stuff.
For those that don't know the show, the Language Archive, the main character studies languages, and he's just got tapes and books and research, and that kind of ended up being the basis for the germ for the set, was the archive.
Yeah, and there was something I remember throwing out in the discussion early on was Howard really wanted like an abstract set. He was like, there's no way we can make all these places. It's way too small. Fran was very much in agreement. And we're talking about like, so how do you make everything of one place, but of different places? And I had a teacher who said, these two teachers actually back in art school, who always had this argument over how do you make everything of a thing? And the one guy, Lester, was always like, well, it's easy, just paint it all red. And if it's all red, then it's all of the same thing. And Myron Helfgott was the other guy, and he would always be like talking about the bar, and he was like, no, everything in a bar has, it's of a bar because it's in a bar, and there's, it's all the glasses and the smoke on everything and all of that. So we kind of decided we wanted both. And some of it jumped off from some Louise Nevelson pieces, if anyone's familiar with her work.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, she a lot of her like pieces that she's known for were these assemblages that she would then paint monochromatically. So it kind of did both the things that I was talking about there. And so while I get even more pompous and even more wordy, as I am wont to do, we throw around these words like immersive theater experience or installation, and like, what does that end up meaning? In the Founders, what's great is the intimacy, and it's the biggest weakness as well as the biggest strength up there. And I was thinking about how I mentioned the clock, and the clock was this railroad station clock that had two sides on it, you know, like a double, like Janus, you know, it had a face going one way and a face going the other way. And the fact that you could tell only that it had two faces when you walked into the space, but you remembered it when you sat down. The fact that just the whole place was overwhelmed with all of the bits of the language archive and everything that was of a piece. And you were kind of taking in information about the set the second you walked into the space.
Right.
And that information stayed with you throughout the show. And that's just a little thing that you can do when you're in a small, intimate space like that. It's
I remember
less...
we did use the L seating, and also Fran kept it really, you guys kept it really tight. The actual playing space was really tight so that, you know, everybody was in the archive.
Yep. And that's something that I always felt like you had to do up there was instead of trying to make it bigger, which you will always fail at, try to make it smaller. You have some control on that, you know.
Make it bigger, right?
Yeah, you can't. There's no way. So just don't even try. You know, you'll always succeed if you make the playing area up there, you know, a cocktail table. And then when you slop out over it, you know, that's more to the good. And so yeah, I mean, essentially it was a bench, a table, and a countertop with just like a third of a cocktail table of room down center. But those four things became, you know, the bakery, the railroad station, the archive, and Fran had a term for it. She called it something.
The table,
basically the fourth wall space.
Yeah, the table folded out to the hospital bed too, didn't it? I mean, it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might not even have folded out. We might have just thrown, I can't remember, Carl. We might just have thrown poor Carl onto it as it was, and he, you know, had to make do.
Here's a pillow and a blanket.
See, he's in a hospital.
He's in a hospital. That's all he needs.
He must be. He's got a blanket on.
So should we look at? We've got some slides of some of the installation and the aftermath of strike, and some of the work stuff done. Yay!
That is Howard Pape and Joseph Martin and myself with elbows akimbo. Joseph Martin is an amazing man and a just kind of comically gifted builder. And, you know, he's just super good, and he's been good enough he's taught me a lot and helped Live Arts a lot. I don't know if he's still able to do that, but that's right. And that's the three of us at Camp Holiday Trails.
Holiday Trails. You and Howard look a little skeptical.
Possibly, but that was, you know, best come to most situations with just a little skepticism. But yeah, I'm sure we eventually did what Joseph told us, and to the good.
So you were saying the other day that this particular show, Language Archive, was this one of the first dabbles Howard took in actually designing? Is that what you said, you think?
I think it was the first, and I think it was the first time I came back to Live Arts after I left staff.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Jeff Otis was the TD at this time. So you'll see, those of you who know the founders, this is that back corner, and there's the shelving, and everybody brought in like tapes and sound equipment and
CDs and mini discs,
and all this stuff.
Everything in my life that had been cutting edge at one point and now is just like
was defunct already.
Boxes in a basement and wires galore. We had this lovely little sort of curving shelf that rode the corner and I think we were able to like get just enough of a skimtion of room there that we had some kind of backlight effect that maybe
Yeah.
went.
And actually, we in the program installation artists, because you see Cindy Burke back there just past Brian Menard. That's it. So
Yep.
Jennifer Almanza, Cindy Burke, Roz Casey, Brian Menard, and Karen Pape. Oh, that's Karen on the right. All the way over to the right is Steph Hess, who was in the show. And then that's the back of Karen's head. They spent a whole bunch of time putting that shelving together. And
yeah. And there's Brian doing one of the things he does best. He can transform a space like nobody I've ever seen, and everybody doing great stuff. And he would come out and then swoop back in and start tweaking things, and that was all Howard. He recruited those people, and he really believed in, you know, like get people to the problem, you know, don't try to solve everything yourself. And
well, it's hard to say no to Howard.
yeah, I haven't seen it really.
Yeah. He hugs you and it's all over.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And yeah, and that was
oh, here, this is a Lois Nevelson, right?
Yep. Yeah, I usually by this time I very regularly early on in a show would put together like a collage, and I couldn't find the collage that I did for this one, but I remember that this was front and center in it. And so this was definitely, I would consider source material. Yeah. And and there's a little bit of that nonsense I was talking about with it all the same color, but all of the same thing.
Yeah.
The beautiful Scott Dunn.
Beautiful Scott Dunn with his long hair.
Is that long?
Yeah.
I guess it's relative.
You haven't seen it lately.
Yeah, fair enough. He was the stage manager for that one, doing a great job. I love how like everybody's very focused on what they're doing.
On their wall.
I was trying to find good production photos from this, and all we have is everybody's took us, you know.
Because they're all putting stuff on the shelves.
Good sign.
Yeah, people are busy.
Ouch. Oh, I think Louis Schultz was responsible for the bench. We had to like,
I think you're right. I think it was Louis. Yeah.
We took a very nice, gracefully curved railroad bench and then scrunched it. So that was one of these very typically super uncomfortable things, so that it could look like what it was, but, you know, take up only a foot of space.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you actually sat on it, it was a torture device. But yeah, Louis,
that was him.
Yeah.
All right, so here's a good picture. It's not the finished product, I don't think, but almost. But look at that.
Yeah, that's under work lights. But that's where it went, and what everybody's. It was tight. It was
gorgeous. It was gorgeous.
Everybody did a lovely thing there, and then I can't even remember how we painted it, but it all got this charcoal gray matte covering. And if I remember correctly, Mona Griswold lit it. And she had a good time with it, I think. I mean, because it was all this texture, but no bounce. So she could put whatever light wherever she wanted on it. And it was pretty.
It was fascinating. It really was cool. There we are under production lights.
I think I took that with my very first iPhone. But yeah, oh yeah, the stools. We had those
you guys
those rotating pianos.
Stools for us, yeah. Because they swiveled and moved like tripod leg thing.
Yeah.
So people could see the around easily.
And the table, which was bolted to the floor because it might even have been raked or something like that, like at a slight angle and a slight truncation. So we could fit Carl on it once he was, you know,
in the hospital.
Snuffing.
Mm-hmm.
And the language was dying with him.
All right, tell everybody about this picture. This is so cool.
Oh, this is just something I had to take at the time. This is right at the end of strike. And it was just such a nice little, there is, you can see in the corner and a little scrap of the previous show, which I guess was getting closer to baby, just the paint job, I mean, on the floor. And on the walls are the, I guess, negative space from that paint job. And so everything's been taken down, but what's left there is this sort of, yeah,
sets of times past. Yeah, it's just kind of ghosted on there. It's so cool.
Yeah, I like the egg crate in particular. Sort of center top there.
That's so awesome.
And all the where all the CDs were and stuff. It's interesting because then I realized, like, wait, if I'm seeing that much paint, it couldn't have been as dense as it looked. But yeah, who knows?
So good.
There were lots of shelves.
Yay!
Yay!
That was so cool. That was it was a fun set to work on.
Yeah,
Fun show to work on. So
something very successful happened there in terms of it was I think because I left and we had to commit with Fran to like getting the bones down, like just like where the shelves were, how the table was going to work, how the counter was going to work, and all that stuff. And as far as possible, just screw it down and then not tinker. And I think we got lucky and it worked really well for Fran in that iteration, because I remember it didn't change much.
And, yeah, the basic.
And then once we had that, it was sort of like, you know, we came in and I think at first I wasn't a co-designer. I'm not sure how that worked really.
Howard came to you and
Howard came to me
and he hugged you.
Told me he loved me and gave me a little peck on the cheek. And the next thing I knew, I was designing from 1,000 miles away. And yeah, and it was when he got everybody in there doing the dressing that worked. It was like one of these weird minutes where I was expecting like to have to do a lot more than I wound up doing, and didn't feel like, you know, you turn into a control freak when I turn into a control freak on designing a set a little bit, which is stupid to do because it's a collaboration, but it just looked great. And, you know, I could keep my hands out of the pie. And then we, you know, came in and tightened it up. It was really cool. And Howard really, like, he really unfurled his sails on designing on that one.
Yeah.
That was neat to see, because he'd been a master carpenter for me a number of times, and just increasingly over time, he was sort of having more and more opinions and you know, had more sort of certainty in his opinions. And he was getting to the point where he's like, no, I want to do this. And then he did, and it was. And then
he did, yeah.
And he was really good at it.
Over the next week or two, his fabulous, you know, totally Howard metamorphosis. Holy crap! Lovely set for Kill a Mockingbird, to name two.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesome. Well, do you have? We're like gonna wrap up here. Is there anything else that you would want to share or let folks know about Grady Smith and Live Arts, or just what Grady Smith is doing now in Oregon?
Now, oddly enough, I've taken a strange turn, and I'm a phlebotomist now, and I work in a hospital of all things. So I get to stab people all day long. That's fun.
There's something to be said for that.
Yeah, you know, and it feels consequential. It's interesting. Not unlike the way things felt when I was at Live Arts. Which it did. It felt overly consequential.
Yeah, not to get too off track, but there's lots of crossover between theater and medical. I know lots of people have gone into nursing because they can nurse anywhere depending
Yep.
on where the theater job is. So yeah, lots of people I went to school with ended up in medical school. So
Yeah. Wasn't Esty a biological engineer?
yes, one of his many degrees.
That is a
So
magical man there. Yeah, no, I don't know. I was, as said earlier, I am soggy with nostalgia because, of course, in prepping for this, I've been looking at a number of these, and you know, you think back to Metamorphosis and these, I don't know, and which was something that Howard built. The Amazing Pool, which we never would have done if he hadn't been
Howard,
able to
yeah.
be recruited. Um, just Howard alone in that there was a place for that remarkable man to kind of divide and combine people the way he did and create all opportunities and live arts itself doing that. One of the things I love always about working with Ro is she's just great at taking the piss out of all of the self-important talk. But at the same time, you can kind of tell that she's a true believer about it. So I don't know. It was like when I was talking about the set and how you take advantage of the intimacy in the upstage and how it helps rather than necessarily hurts. And I don't know. That's something to remember with design, and I guess all the little opportunities and whatnot there at Live Arts. Hey, how about that?
there you go.
Cool. Thank you so much for reaching out to me and giving me an opportunity to think and talk about all this again.
Well, we miss you. So next
you.
time you and the Allison come back this way, you should, swing by.
Would
Say hi. We would love to see you.
absolutely will. Absolutely will. Maybe I'll retire out there.
I think that's an excellent idea, personally.
Cool. Cool.
Well, I'm going to thank you. And I'm going to say tomorrow night, we're going to do the 2014-2015 season. And our very special guest is going to be the awesome, the amazing Kathleen Mueller, stage manager, producer, sound designer, whatever, usher. She does it all. And she'll be our guest tomorrow night. So,
Yay, Kathleen.
Yay, we love the Kathleen.
Yeah.
Grady, jazz hands, live long and prosper. Let's dance. See you soon, sweetheart. I love you so much.
Likewise. Likewise. Love you, Zuby.